Grilled chicken or grilled lamb? These do remind me a little bit of my grill outside, to be honest with you. I mean, that faceplate really does look like a shiny grill. Hi, welcome to ConvinceMeAudio. Today, courtesy of my buddy Armand and one of our viewers of the channel, we have the review of the D90SE, Topping's third iteration of the D90 DAC. Let's talk. Let's take this off of the desk and actually have a look more closely. This DAC costs $899. Now, the previous generation was $899, the MQA variant behind me here. But there is another variant which is just called the D90, which was $100 or $200 cheaper, I believe. Thank you, MQA, for the price hike. Now there's only one variant, this. I will do quite a few comparisons between this and the MQA variant behind me because they're quite similar, and this is more of a S version rather than a full-on upgrade, but that difference is extremely big sonically, to be honest with you. So let's take a hardware tour around this unit. In the front, exactly the same as previously, we have a display in the middle, not too bad. We have a menu up and down button, which can be used as a volume up and down button when this unit's running in pre-mode. And then we have the mute button on the left-hand side that can also be used to scroll through the menu options when setting this up for the first time. The chassis looks the same as every other Topping. It looks beautiful. This sort of like matte finish metal. It's quite light, not too heavy, but it's heavy enough that it's not gonna slide on the desk, and these rubber feet are really sticky. So, and in the back, we have the cutoff power supply. We have the kettle cable connection, obviously, AES, optical, USB, coax, BNC, and then we have the outputs, which is basically 3-pin XLR balanced and RCA single-ended. That's pretty much the unit. I mean, it's very straightforward, looks exactly like the other ones. If you've owned one Topping DAC, you've owned all of them hardware-wise, pretty much. Very nice clicky buttons, and it's quite responsive, not too bad at all. Now, let's get some housekeeping out of the way first. This DAC decodes at 32768 PCM, DSD at 1024, MQA Studio on the optical, USB, AES and coax. There are 6 filters to play with, obviously, on this DAC, the same as the other variants, I believe. The MQA one had 5 or 6 as well. You usually end up leaving it on 1, testing them. Sometimes there is a subtle difference, most of the time there really isn't. On this one, we've left it on filter 5. Bluetooth on this is pretty damn good. It decodes LDAC, yay, aptX HD and all the other Bluetooth codecs, AAC, etc., which is really good. And it also decodes 5.0, so connecting your TV to this is also a great option if you're not going via I2S. I advise not to actually connect your TV via Bluetooth, but if you have to, you can. But the I2S connection is much better for that. Bluetooth is 24-bit, but for the majority of my testing, I used I2S and USB, coax and optical, and Bluetooth on a regular basis. THDN on this DAC is at 0.00005, so absolutely no noise floor levels, which is fantastic. I mean, it's a very good DAC, to be honest with you. The second generation XMOS processor, 16 core, is used to deal with the processing on this unit and help with jitter, making sure it's around 160 dB. All good and dandy. We also have a remote which you can control the volume with, the inputs, the filters. Basically, once you set it up for the first time, the remote comes in very, very handy, so you don't have to actually mess around with any of these functions if this is running under your home theater system. It's a very good optimized DAC with all the connections you could possibly need at a desk. My only gripe with this is the price point. It should not be $900. This unit should be at $599 to actually compete with the SGDD1 review up here, and it trades blows with that DAC on 95% of areas. And I think for a lot of people, it would be a difficult choice to choose between one and the other. I personally prefer the Topping D90 SE as my preference. When we jump into the sound section, you'll realize why. Unlike the previous model, the MQA and the D90 DAC originally used the AKM chips. Now, on this one, Topping has opted for the Sabre chips, the ESS 9038, due to the AKM shortage and obviously the factory burning down. There has always been a slight glare with Sabre chips, but they have really tamed it down with this, and it probably is, if not the one of my favorite ESS Sabre chip implementations I have heard in the last 5 years. The other one being the Oppo H1 amplifier and DAC, the combo, that's obviously no longer in production. Very sad about that. It was absolutely wonderful. I'm not really a fan of ESS chips, Sabre DACs, to be honest with you, as a rule, but on this, 4 tigers immediately for the implementation. Well done, Topping. You actually made me listen to a Sabre chip and not vomit. I really do appreciate it. Housekeeping out of the way, the DAC is slightly expensive, build quality is exceptional, overall sound is yay. Let's break it down. I introduced this DAC to the chain about 3 weeks back. On the Topping A90 behind me, on the SMSL SH8S and Benchmark AHB2, which has recently landed here at CMA. The review for that will be coming soon, so subscribe if you don't want to miss it, because holy balls. This DAC leans towards an analytical sound, but it's not dry. It's very much reminiscent of the SU8S from SMSL we reviewed earlier, but with much higher resolution, fidelity and capability. But it's that analytical, transparent, clear sound, yet very musical. It's got a beautiful tonal balance. So if you are somebody who's looking for the analytical sort of sound where it's transparent and neutral, but with a touch of sweetness, a touch of sugar, this is the DAC you go for. Fortunately, you can bypass the MQA filters. It's only bound to one filter, so you can use any of the other filters and not be bothered by it. I do not like the MQA decoding, the sound, anything to do with it personally. I use I2S for that specific reason, because it completely just gets rid of that whole situation and you can just completely avoid it. But the filter 5 on this unit, which has been used on a regular basis, has been really wonderful and high performing. As a quick side note, the software implementation in this is god awful. It's the same as the D90. It's where you have to actually switch off the power supply, hold the front button, switch it back on, and then wait till it boots into settings. And once it does, you can configure all your menus. Very straightforward. You do this once, but then you have to press save and then it will reboot back into like the main system itself. So for example, if you want XLR or RCA outputs or both, or if you want pre or non-pre, if you don't have an active pre or a normal pre at your desk, you can actually use this. It's not too bad, but it's a digital one. Remember, you lose dynamic range every time you attenuate. I usually just have that switched off to line out. You can adjust the voltage from 4 volts, 5 volts, and match it to your system. Once all these settings are saved, and you can obviously change your filters and stuff here too, you don't have to touch it again because you can change the filters from the remote, and inputs is all done from the remote as well. So, but the fact that you have to switch it off and do this jumping up and down, sacrificing a virgin and 2 goats just to get into the menu is just, nah, you don't need to do that, stop it. Look at the Soundcast SGD1, you hold the power button, you rotate it, choose the things you want, blah, 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 and then you're done. It's just simple, straightforward. Topping, please change this mode. I don't like it, I don't care for it, it's irritating, it's annoying. Otherwise, you've built a fantastic DAC here. Let's get to the sound, which is why you're here, and all the other information can obviously be read down below, or you can research it yourself. I mean, it's the manufacturer's guide. The reason why you're here, I hope, is because you want my opinion on this DAC and how it sounds. And for this one, we took out the big boy big guns, the Hi-Fi Mansesvaras and the Dianas off camera over there. So this DAC, let's start with staging first. The staging on this DAC is between intimate and average. It doesn't stage very wide. Not only that, there is a problem with the imaging within the stage. An accurate representation of the borderline stage can be seen and distinctly pointed out. So you can see that the stage ends there, or because of the way the track was mixed, it ends there, all the way over there, but you can safely say it doesn't cascade into the distance. There is the borderline of the stage. Environment of the stage is quite open, just not very big. It's more like a little stadium rather than a very large stadium like the SGD1, and there is absolutely no change between this and the MQA variant behind me. That has not changed in the slightest. Yet the focus on the D90SE is a lot more accurate within the stage, it's a lot more tonally balanced, it's a lot more better performing across all the aspects of the DAC, but the stage is definitely more accurate. It has the ability to shrink the stage and expand the stage pretty well. There is quite good depth there. It's not too bad. And also, the instruments beyond your front focus of the main band here, where usually reverb and delay and decay happens, is pretty accurate behind the main performance that's happening in front of you here. Singers have got a tendency to come forward and back, which is great. Backing vocals do sound a bit out of phase. They're not like distinctly to the side of you and behind you, each one with the same laser etched focus like behind me on the Spring 2 Extreme Edition. And definitely in regards to the Spring 3, it's no contest, obviously. But $3.6 thousand, review up here, $900 on the table. Imaging on this DAC is good when the sound starts. When the initial coming to life placement in the mix happens, for example, the guitar coming here, the drums appearing there, the cymbals over here, the singer there, the backing vocals over there. Initially, it's very good and you can point to it and it's very vivid and it's very, very nicely placed and they are all around each other. Placement between each other is very accurate. But like I stated, the stage is small and you don't have a humongous amount of room to breathe, but it is very focused. The problem happens is when a synth comes from right to left or front left to rear right. As it's cascading across the stage, it starts off with perfect dynamics there, loud and with the accurate amount of volume in the mix that's been provided, but as it slides across the stage, it fades into the background, then it comes back loud again. So it goes loud here, because we're starting, then fading, right there. Like that. It's a bit bizarre. It's not very focused, so therefore the imaging blurs as you're going from one point to another. Not too much, but it definitely softens, 100%. Otherwise, the initial attack is pretty damn accurate. It's pretty good. So, good imaging, good staging, with some caveats. The SGD1 stage is much better, much bigger. It images much better with much better layering. But the tonal balance of this, which we will get onto now, is far more pleasing. This is very, very sweet sounding. Even with the ESS chip in this, it's still a very neutral, bright leaning sound signature. The characteristics of this DAC is that clear glass window. When you pair it with an A90, like I have behind me, or my speakers, the studio monitors behind me, it provides a nice, clean, clear window into the mix. on the benchmark. I don't know why you would be running a D90 SE on a benchmark, but maybe you're waiting on saving money to jump to a Spring or Dave or May or something like that. It actually works really well, and it's a nice synergy between both of those amps I have mentioned. Now, let's talk about dynamics, because dynamics on this DAC is weak. What I mean by that is, when there is a loud tone, sound, take your pick, it's very accurate. When there is a soft sound in comparison and in conjunction with a loud sound, it's pretty accurate. You've got loud, medium, and small. The problem is when there's a deviation in the small, so you got small, 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 they all sound pretty much small. It can't deviate between boundaries of levels of sound where two sets of medium volume sounds within the mix are truly separate from each other, yet don't smudge, don't smear, just basically become a wall of sound. That is something quite apparent on something like this, on the Sasvaras, and Dianas. You can immediately tell that, yeah, the loud is good, the loud is loud, the medium is medium, the low is low. But if you have 10 different samples in that medium range, 15 different samples in the lower range, and then you have 5 or 10 samples in the upper loud range, all the loud stuff will be loud, all the medium stuff will be medium, and all the low sounds will be low. Basically, it can't differentiate very well between those frequency volume levels. Output stage on this DAC is pretty good. It's not bad at all. There is distinct good punch, impact, and authority, and it seems to be providing good enough power to all the frequencies within the frequency response quite accurately. I mean, it's nowhere near on the levels of the Spring, obviously, but it's probably one of the best I've heard under 900. I would like to review the Bifrost 2 RME ADI2 and some of those other DACs that are either around this price point or punch a few $100s higher to see exactly where this sits. But compared to all the SMSL stuff and the SGD1 and stuff like that, I think this either is on par or better than most of those. I think the price point on this is $300 too high though, but it's a very good DAC. The bass region on this DAC, it's impactful, it's got authority, it's lean sounding, it doesn't have large amounts of body, but it's very, very quick and it's very impactful. It's actually very good for EDM music in this category of price points. It's not too bad at all. There is good authority there and there is good impact there, and you really do feel it. It's rather visceral. It's definitely a better low end than the SGD1. Definitely a better low end than the D90 MQA. I can't stand that DAC. And it actually is quite surprising, to be honest with you. I am very pleased with this DAC, and the DAC itself, it leans better towards less busy tracks than some really, really busy tracks, like if we take Infected Mushrooms Converting Vegetarians. The first track, let's pull up that track. So that track, if you follow along with this review with that track in the background, you'll realize that kick drum is very authoritative, it's got power and it punches really hard and in the center point, but all the synth and the swishy noise you get in the beginning of the track is rather bland and flat. But that authority for the bass region in the mid bass is actually very punchy and very, very, very good. The absolute low end of the bass region, it's got good body, but it's still lean sounding. I mean, there was no DACs here apart from this on the table when the Spring went to Golden Sounds for actual measuring and stuff when he was doing his Spring free review. This was exclusively used on my desk, and I used it with my Dianas and with my Sasvaras. And the good thing about this DAC is that it fades into the background, so you really don't think about it. It's actually a very good performer. It's definitely a fantastic placeholder if you've dropped a bunch of money for like Sasvaras or VC or Empyreans or something and you just waiting to get money together. Between this and the A90 makes a fantastic high-end in the mid-fi category stack. Obviously, it's not going to give you the potential these headphones have, of course not, but it's good enough a good placeholder, and it actually does perform really well. Climbing up to the mid-range is really transparent. It's really nicely separated. There's good texture there. The tonal balance on this DAC is fantastic. The timbre is okay. It's not bad at all. And with that ESS chip, it's surprising how good it is, to be honest with you. Ride cymbals don't have a massive amount of body, but their tonal balance is quite correct. I really do enjoy it. Metal tracks on this, the guitars, that mid-rangey rhythm guitars do sound very distinct, textured, and really nuanced. It's very nice, it's very clear. It's a very clear glass window into that specific mix. Vocals have a nice body in the mid-range, men and women. I actually quite like it. It's something that never really stood out in regards to being, oh my god, that's outstanding, but it's good enough that your mind just shuts off and doesn't really think about it, and you kind of get immersed in the song. Climbing up to the upper mid-range and then approaching the treble region, you can still hear the saber chip a little bit. It's a little bit sharp, but only just. It's like it's got just enough of a bite to give you the edge of instruments and the attack in that region, but not enough to give you a migraine. On the SGD1 and on the MQA variant, because you can't bypass that MQA filter, for me personally, I couldn't listen to that DAC for more than 10 minutes because anywhere from the 16 to 17.5K region and then up above, I get migraines. I get serious migraines. Sometimes it's not even audible, but your brain is picking it up, and I just have to go, no, this DAC is just no. But on this is smooth, it's nice. It's definitely got a bite. You can definitely tell it's a saber chip. It's slightly less smoother than the AKM chips, but it's definitely more resolving compared with the D90 MQA. It's definitely more tonally correct. It's more sweet sounding. It's got this sweet sound, and I think that really is what is selling me on this DAC. It's tonal balance and the timbre. The timbre is not bad in this category. It's actually pretty damn freaking good. The treble region extends really well. You've got nice air up there, and the upper spectrum of drums, ride cymbals, and when vocalists go really high, it's like a crystal clear bell. It's got that sort of tonality, and it's quite smooth, and it's silky, and it's really pleasing to the ear. I prefer the Sesvaras if I was forced to use this DAC than the Dianas. Dianas sounded a little more clinical, a little bit more flat. But on Sesvaras, because it seems to like this sort of DAC, it actually works a little bit better. It gives you that clearer window. The Dianas have a dark sound signature review up here if you're interested in that headphone, and it's actually a much better synergy when you pair it with a ladder DAC like this one, or the Spring 3 review up here. But overall, I think it's a fantastic DAC. So let me paint you a picture. This DAC gives a square stage. Within this stage, we have a singer in the center here. This singer can come forward and she can go back. There's good enough depth there. Good enough depth there to give you a nice indicator of actual space. The kick drum from EDM tracks is bang in the center, and it's big and punchy, and it really does attack right there. So we have the singer there, and we have the bass drum kicking here. Really nicely separated. And then we have the guitar here, and we have the bassist over there, and we have the drummer behind the singer there. So vocalist, drummer behind her with a kick drum here, guitarist and bassist over there. It's all very nicely separated, but not very wide. Pretty close together, but with good enough space between them. Now, this guitarist is playing a rhythm guitar, and there is an effect which basically is supposed to break apart and span across the stage like this. But what it does is, it It's loud here, gets softer as you go along, softer, softer, softer as it's spanning, and then it gets loud again when it arrives at its destination there. And that's the weakness of the imaging. The vocalist has got good body and has got good placement. And then we have her backing vocals like this, coming behind her and forward, or coming behind her and back. But those are all out of phase, so they're very, very soft. Compared to the vocals here, they're very soft like this. So it doesn't feel like 10 people on the stage singing at the same time. It feels like one person singing and some faded, phasey stuff in the background, but it's still very good. We are comparing to top of the line DACs back there. So for this region, it's absolutely excellent because it doesn't matter, it's soft, they're all very accurately placed. So as you can see, the stage gets laid out perfectly well for the track. And the reproduction of the song and the way it's reproduced is actually very good. It's just got some slight weak spots at certain places. Then comes the dynamics of this maelstrom of sound within the stage. As the singer is singing, the guitarist is here, the bassist is there, the drummer is behind her. And that is, the drum is loud, punchy here, really loud. And then the singer is softer than her, and the guitarist is louder than singer, but not as loud as the drum kit here. So you got loud, soft, medium. But the synth that is around the guitar, and if there are 10 tracks of medium range synths around the guitar with different variations of volume, they all sound the same. They all got the same size. They're all the same as the guitar. The dynamics of it separating between large and small and medium, but medium, 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 small, 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 large, 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 large doesn't exist. It's just large, medium or small. It's immediately apparent and audible. But overall, an overall picture is slightly flat, slightly two-dimensional, slightly less body than say something like a spring. But if you've never heard a spring before, it's actually a very, very good DAC. So the overall consensus for this DAC is it's a very, very good DAC. It's a fantastic placeholder for the upper tier flagships, perfectly good enough for all the lower tier flagships of Aria, Focal Clear MG, Focal Clear OG, the HD800S. It's perfectly adequate for those. And it's a fantastic placeholder for the absolute summit headphones of Sasvaras and Dianas. It will tide you over for about 6 months or so until you can sort your chain out and actually go and get things that those headphones provide. I like this DAC a lot. I do give it my strongest of recommendations. If you can find one used, MSRP only your pocket could tell, because I don't think it's worth $900. I would cut off $300 from that price point, but it's an exceptional DAC overall. Very, very, very pleased with it. In fact, I might go as far as to say I would probably buy this DAC, get rid of the MQA variant, and pair it with the A90 as my mid-fi stack for the desk for testing headphones for the channel. Obviously, on the high end, we have the benchmark AHP2, right now the Spring 2 Extreme Edition from Wildism, and the May will be coming shortly as well. So that is the higher end system, and the lower tier systems, we'll see what we can do in regard to either SMSL or IFI or something, just so that we've got a nice broad range to actually test equipment with. So I give this DAC 3 strong tigers, 4 tigers if the price point was $300 less, but that $900 price tag is a bitter pill to swallow. If you can find one used for $600, definitely worth it. 3 solid tigers, well done topping. I am very, very, very impressed with this, and it's fantastic. I would like to take a moment to tell you about our Patreon, which basically provides you with early reviews before anyone else, gives you access to the private Telegram chat where we talk via voice most of the time and I can respond to your questions on the fly. Hot takes about new equipment gets dropped there before anywhere else. If not, there is also our public Telegram chat where you can reach out to me and I'll get to you as soon as I can and be able to respond to your questions. Once again, I would like to extend a massive thank you to Armand, who sends a lot of equipment in for review. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much, mate. It's very, very much appreciated. I am Koji CEO. I'll see you next time. Peace.